Here's the thing nobody wants to admit. That girl in your class, the one everyone's trying to talk to, the one with the perfect smile who makes your brain short circuit every time she walks by, she's not some untouchable mystery. She's a human being who gets bored in statistics class just like you. And while every other guy is out here treating her like a museum exhibit they're too nervous to get close to, you could be the one actually talking to her like a normal person. Wild concept, right? Let me tell you what's actually happening. Right now, she's probably dealing with the fifth guy this week, who's approaching her with sweaty palms and a rehearsed compliment he found on Reddit. She can smell the desperation from across the quad. It's not that these guys are bad people, they're just playing a game they don't understand with rules that don't exist. The actual secret? It's so simple it sounds fake. But stick with me, because this is going to flip everything you think you know. Most guys believe attraction works like a transaction. Do enough nice things, say the right words, look a certain way, and boom, she likes you. It's a vending machine mentality. Insert compliments, receive affection, but here's what actually happens in her head when you operate like that. She feels the weight of your expectations pressing down on every interaction. She knows you're performing. She can tell you're trying to win something. And the moment she senses that, whatever natural attraction might have been there evaporates like morning fog. Think about the last time someone tried really hard to sell you something. A car, a gym membership, whatever. You felt it, didn't you? That pressure, that sense that they needed you more than you needed them. Did it make you want to buy? Or did it make you want to leave? She's experiencing the exact same thing when you show up with your game face on, ready to deploy your 5-step strategy to win her over. Now here's where it gets interesting. The guys who actually succeed with attractive women, they're not doing what you think they're doing. They're not more handsome, though that's what you tell yourself. They're not richer or funnier or more charismatic in some magical way. They've just figured out something that sounds almost too obvious to be true. They stopped caring about the outcome. Wait, don't leave yet. I know that sounds like generic advice your uncle would give you at Thanksgiving, but there's actual psychology behind this that nobody explains properly. When you genuinely don't need her approval, when you're just existing in the moment without this desperate energy radiating off you like heat from asphalt in July, something shifts in her perception of you. She spent her entire life watching guys transform into awkward, try-hard versions of themselves the moment they talk to her. Every conversation becomes a job interview where she's the hiring manager and they're begging for the position. It's exhausting for her. Then you show up and you're just normal. You're talking to her the same way you'd talk to anyone. You're not handling her with kid gloves. You're not carefully crafting each sentence to avoid offending her. You're just being a person talking to another person. That's when her brain does something unexpected. It starts paying attention because you're different, not because you negged her or used some pickup artist technique, not because you're playing hard to get. You're different because you're not playing at all. But let me be real with you. This isn't about pretending not to care. Women can detect fake indifference faster than a metal detector finds loose change. This is about actually restructuring how you see the entire situation. Right now, you probably see her as this prize you need to win. You've built her up in your head into something more than human. You've given her power she didn't ask for and doesn't even want. What if you flip that? What if, instead of hoping she likes you, you started genuinely evaluating whether you even like her beyond the fact that she's attractive? What if you treated the interaction like you're interviewing her for a spot in your life, not the other way around? This isn't about being arrogant or rude. It's about having standards. It's about recognizing that your time and attention have value. Because here's a truth that might sting a little. If the only reason you want to talk to her is because she's hot, she already knows that, and she's already bored by it. Every guy wants to talk to her for that exact reason. The guys who stand out, they're interested in something beyond her appearance. They're curious about who she actually is. They're willing to walk away if the conversation isn't interesting. They're not sitting there sweating bullets hoping they don't screw up their one shot. They know that if it doesn't work out, life continues. There are other interesting people in the world. And paradoxically, that's what makes her interested. When you stop treating her like a rare Pokemon you finally encountered after hours of searching. When you start treating her like a regular human who needs to actually be interesting to earn your attention, that's when things shift. But knowing this intellectually and actually implementing it are two completely different universes. So let's talk about what this actually looks like in practice. Because theory without application is just trivia you'll forget by tomorrow. Picture this scenario. You're talking to her, and instead of carefully measuring every word like you're defusing a bomb, you just say what's actually on your mind. She mentions she's really into hiking. Most guys would immediately pretend they love hiking too, even if the closest they've gotten to nature this year was walking past a plant at Target. You might say something like, hiking. I tried that once. Spent 3 hours walking uphill just to look at some trees I could have seen on Google Images. What am I missing? Notice what just happened there. You didn't agree with her to gain approval. You didn't fake enthusiasm. You just responded honestly, with a bit of humor thrown in. And here's what's wild. She's probably laughing right now. Not because you told a perfectly crafted joke, but because you were real. You gave her something genuine to respond to, not another rehearsed compliment about her eyes. This is where most dating advice completely falls apart. Everyone's so focused on what to say, what to wear, how to stand, where to touch your hair, that they forget the most attractive thing you can possibly do is make her enjoy talking to you, not impressed by you, not validated by you, just genuinely enjoying the interaction. Because think about the last conversation you had that you actually remember. Was it because someone complimented you? Probably not. It was probably because you laughed, or you got into an interesting debate, or someone told you a story that stuck with you. Women are having the same boring conversations on repeat. How's your day? Where are you from? What do you do? It's like everyone downloaded the same script from some generic small talk database. Then you show up and actually engage with what she's saying. She tells you she's a graphic designer, and instead of just nodding and saying cool, you ask her why all corporate logos look the same now, or tell her about the weirdest design you've ever seen. Suddenly, she's actually thinking. Her brain is engaged. The conversation has texture to it. But let's address the elephant in the room. You're probably thinking, okay, but what if I'm just not naturally funny? What if I can't think of clever things to say in the moment? Here's the secret nobody tells you. Being engaging isn't about being a stand-up comedian. It's about being present enough to actually listen to what she says and respond to it like a human being, not a robot running a pickup routine. The humor comes from observation, from noticing small absurdities in everyday situations, from not taking everything so seriously, including yourself. You know what's actually funny? Self-awareness. When you can acknowledge your own quirks or mistakes without spiraling into self-deprecation, that's attractive. She says something about how she's always late to everything. You could respond with, yeah, I'm super punctual to try to look good. Or you could say, I convinced myself that being 10 minutes late is actually on time. I've built my entire schedule around this delusion. One response is boring. The other one gives her something to work with, something to laugh at, something that makes you seem like an actual person instead of a job applicant trying to list your best qualities. And conversation isn't just about making her laugh, though that's a huge part of it. It's about creating moments where she forgets she's on guard. Most women walk into interactions with attractive guys already braced for disappointment. They're waiting for you to say something creepy, or try too hard, or reveal that you're just another guy who sees them as a trophy to collect. When you're just talking to her like she's a person, when you're teasing her a bit, when you're actually listening to her answers instead of waiting for your turn to talk, she relaxes, and that's when real attraction starts building. There's this thing that happens in great conversations that you can't fake. Both people start riffing off each other. She says something, you add to it, she builds on what you said, and suddenly you're both laughing at an inside joke that didn't exist 5 minutes ago. That's chemistry. Not the movie version where you lock eyes across a crowded room. The real version where you realize you've been talking for an hour and it felt like 10 minutes. So, how do you actually get good at this? You practice being present. You practice noticing things. You practice caring less about whether she likes you and more about whether the conversation itself is interesting. Watch comedy, sure, but more importantly, pay attention to how people naturally banter. Listen to how your funniest friend tells stories. It's usually not about the story itself. It's about the details they include, the way they build up to something, the observations they make along the way. Start small. Next time you're talking to anyone, not just women you're attracted to, try adding one observation or one slightly unexpected response to the conversation. Instead of, yeah, traffic was bad, try traffic was so bad I had time to question all my life choices and decide I'm probably making mostly okay ones. It's not groundbreaking comedy, but it's more interesting than agreeing that traffic exists. You're giving the other person something to respond to, something that has your personality stamped on it. Here's what most guys miss entirely. The conversation isn't a test you need to pass. It's not a performance where she's grading your every word. It's just two people talking, and if you can make that experience enjoyable for both of you, you're already ahead of 90% of guys who are too busy trying to remember which pickup line comes next. The real secret? Women are attracted to men who make them feel something beyond just pretty. Make her laugh. Make her think. Make her curious about what you'll say next. And suddenly, you're not just another guy asking for her number. You're starting to notice something, right? All of this comes back to one fundamental truth. She's not falling for your resume or your carefully rehearsed lines. She's falling for how you make her feel in the moment. And nothing creates that feeling faster than making her laugh while actually having a real conversation with her. Think about the last time you were genuinely attracted to someone. Was it because they listed their accomplishments? Or was it because talking to them felt effortless and fun? The answer's obvious. We're drawn to people who make us feel alive, entertained, engaged. Women aren't different in this regard. They're just better at spotting when you're faking it. Here's where most guys completely lose the plot. They think attraction is something you build over time through consistency and proving yourself. Wrong. Attraction sparks in seconds, and it happens during those initial conversations where she's deciding whether you're worth her time. Miss that window, and you're forever the guy she's polite to, but never thinks about when she's alone. So what actually happens in her mind when you make her laugh? Her brain releases dopamine, same chemical that fires when she eats chocolate or wins at something. You're literally becoming associated with pleasure in her neurological wiring, but it goes deeper than that. When she laughs with you, her guard drops. That wall she keeps up to filter out the boring guys? It cracks. Suddenly, she's not analyzing whether you're good enough. She's just enjoying herself. And that's the entire game right there. Get her enjoying the interaction, and everything else takes care of itself. She'll start finding reasons to like you instead of reasons to dismiss you. She'll start noticing the things about you that are attractive instead of cataloging your flaws. The conversation becomes the thing that pulls her in, not your looks or your job or whatever else you thought mattered. But making her laugh isn't about being a comedian. It's about being unpredictable in the best way. Most guys are so worried about saying the wrong thing that they say nothing interesting at all. They give safe answers, boring observations, predictable responses. You want to stand out? Say something she didn't see coming. Not something weird or offensive, just something that shows your brain works differently than the last 10 guys who approached her. She asks what you do for work. Standard answer? Tell her your job title and watch her eyes glaze over. Better answer? I professionally argue with computers until they do what I want. Some days I win, most days they humble me. Now she's smiling and you've given her an actual personality to respond to. The reason this works has nothing to do with the specific words. It's because you're showing her that talking to you is going to be more interesting than scrolling through her phone. And in a world where everyone's default mode is distraction, being genuinely engaging is a superpower. Let's talk about what kills conversations faster than anything else: trying too hard to impress her. The second she senses you're performing for her approval, the attraction dies. She's not looking for a show, she's looking for someone real who happens to be interesting. There's a massive difference between those two things. Real confidence shows up in how comfortable you are with silence, with disagreeing, with not having the perfect response ready. Guys who are trying to impress never stop talking. They fill every gap with another story about themselves or another question designed to keep her engaged. Meanwhile, guys who actually get it, they let the conversation breathe. They're okay with pauses because they're not terrified of losing her attention. Here's something you need to understand about women that nobody talks about. They're incredibly good at reading effort. They can sense when you're working too hard, when you're trying to steer the conversation toward a specific outcome, when you're more focused on the result than the actual interaction. And the moment they sense that, you're done. This is why the whole idea of having prepared stories or rehearsed routines backfires so badly. She can feel the inauthenticity. What works instead is just being present enough to notice things about her, about the situation, about the absurdity of whatever's happening around you, and commenting on it in a way that's genuinely you. You see her struggling to open a door while holding coffee. Most guys either ignore it or rush over like a golden retriever trying to help. Neither creates attraction. What does? Walking over and saying, "I admire the confidence, but I'm pretty sure the door's winning." You've acknowledged the situation, made her smile, and now you're in a conversation that started naturally instead of feeling forced. Everything comes down to this. Stop trying to be the guy you think she wants, and start being the guy who's interesting enough that she wants to know more. The path to that isn't through manipulation or tricks or some secret formula. It's through actually engaging with her like she's a person you're curious about, making observations that are genuinely funny or interesting to you, and being okay with the fact that not every woman is going to vibe with your personality. Because here's the real secret nobody wants to hear. You're not trying to attract every woman. You're trying to attract the ones who appreciate the specific way your brain works. And the only way to find those women is by being authentically yourself in conversations and seeing who responds. Make her laugh. Keep her engaged. Show her that talking to you is the most interesting thing she could be doing right now, and watch what happens. Now here's where everything clicks into place. All the mindset work, all the internal confidence, all the abundance mentality. It only matters if you can translate it into actual human interaction. And that translation happens through one skill that most guys completely overlook: making her enjoy the time she spends with you. Sounds obvious, right? But watch how men actually behave around women they're attracted to. They turn into interview robots firing off questions like they're filling out a survey. Where are you from? What do you do? Do you have siblings? It's exhausting for her, and it kills any chance of real connection. What actually creates attraction is when she associates you with feeling good. Laughter does that better than anything else, not because you're auditioning to be her personal comedian, but because humor signals intelligence, confidence, and the ability to see things from unexpected angles. When you make a woman laugh, you're showing her that your brain works in interesting ways. You're demonstrating that you don't take everything seriously, including yourself. And most importantly, you're creating a positive emotional experience that she'll want to repeat. But there's a specific type of humor that works and another type that destroys your chances completely. Self-deprecating humor where you're genuinely putting yourself down? Terrible. It broadcasts insecurity and makes her feel uncomfortable. Humor that's at someone else's expense in a mean way? Even worse. It shows her exactly how you'll talk about her when she's not around. What works is observational humor about the situation you're both in, playful teasing that shows you're not intimidated by her, and absurd exaggerations that catch her off guard. You're at a coffee shop, and the barista calls out some ridiculously complicated drink order with 7 modifications. You lean over and say, "I respect the commitment, but at some point that's not coffee anymore, that's a science experiment." She laughs because it's true, it's unexpected, and it shows you're paying attention to the world around you instead of just waiting for your turn to talk. That's the kind of humor that builds attraction because it's effortless. You're not trying to make her laugh, you're just naturally funny about the things you notice. Engaging conversation works the same way. Most guys think engagement means talking a lot or asking endless questions. Wrong. Engagement means creating a dynamic where she wants to contribute, where the conversation feels like it's going somewhere interesting instead of circling the same boring topics everyone else brings up. The way you do this is by making statements instead of asking questions. Instead of "what kind of music do you like?" you say "you seem like someone who has incredibly strong opinions about music genres that most people don't care about." Now she's intrigued. She's either going to agree and tell you why, or disagree and explain her actual taste. But either way, you've created something way more interesting than a generic question would have. This is the part where most dating advice falls apart because it tries to give you scripts or lines to memorize. That doesn't work because she can feel when you're performing instead of actually engaging. What works is developing the skill of being genuinely present in conversations, noticing details about her or the situation, and commenting on them in ways that are true to how you actually see the world. You're not trying to be someone else. You're just learning to externalize the interesting thoughts you're already having. Think about conversations you've had with your closest friends, the ones where time disappears and you're both fully engaged. What makes those work? You're not trying to impress each other. You're building on each other's ideas, disagreeing when you actually disagree, making jokes that only make sense in that moment, and generally treating the conversation like a collaboration instead of a performance. That exact same energy is what creates attraction with women. The moment you stop treating the interaction like a test you need to pass and start treating it like an actual conversation with someone you're curious about, everything changes. She says something about her job, and most guys either nod along or ask another boring follow-up question. You actually listen to what she said and respond with something that shows you were paying attention. Wait, so you're basically telling me you spend 8 hours a day solving problems that other people created and somehow you're not permanently annoyed at humanity? That's impressive. You've acknowledged what she said, added your own perspective, and given her something to respond to that's more interesting than, "Oh, cool, how long have you worked there?" This is why making girls laugh and keeping them engaged isn't about memorizing techniques. It's about being someone who's interesting enough that conversations with you are better than whatever else she could be doing. And the only way to become that person is to actually care about having interesting thoughts, noticing details about the world around you, and being willing to say what you actually think instead of filtering everything through. Will this impress her? Every interaction you have is practice for this. Not just with women you're attracted to, but with everyone. The barista, the person next to you on the train, your coworker you barely know. Get comfortable making observations out loud, finding humor in everyday situations, and engaging people in ways that make conversations feel effortless instead of forced. Look, you've got the entire playbook now. Every technique, every mindset shift, every way to actually stand out instead of blending into the mass of guys who think compliments and persistence are strategies. But here's what it all distills down to, and this is the part you need tattooed on your brain. None of the confidence matters, none of the abundance mentality matters, none of the not seeking approval matters if you can't make her actually enjoy talking to you. That's it. That's the whole game. So stop overcomplicating this. Stop looking for the perfect technique or the secret formula. Just focus on becoming someone who's genuinely interesting to talk to, who notices things other people miss, who can find humor in everyday situations, and who treats conversations like collaborative experiences instead of performances. Do that and you won't need to chase anyone. You'll be the person people want to be around, including her.